Welcome back, everyone, to Grade 6 Social Studies class review on Map Skills Part 2. This video is going to be specifically about the different types of maps and geographic tools that we discussed in class last Thursday. So again, just a reminder, the learning goal. I want you to be able to say this with confidence at the end of the lesson. I can identify and interpret different types of maps and geographic tools. So first, we need to talk about, we talked about maps and the different parts of a map in the last video. Who makes maps and why? So, cartographers are map makers. So, a cartographer is a map maker. They create maps for specific purposes that represent the time, place, and culture in which they were created. So, every map that is created has a specific purpose, a specific reason, with information to be shared to people. Okay? And they represent the time, the place, and the culture in which they were created. So if you go back to that coronavirus map of Ohio that we saw in the previous video, that map was made for a specific purpose, and it represents the time, the place, and the culture in which it was developed. So a cartographer equals map maker. There is a variety of different types of maps. This video would be hours long if I wanted to discuss every type of map. So we're going to focus on some specific ones in this review, but there's many more that we may come to learn about throughout the year. So let's talk about these types of maps. And I have the continent of Africa demonstrated in all these different types of maps. So the first type of map is a political map. And a political map shows the boundaries and locations of countries, states, and major cities. So if you look at this political map of Africa, the focus is on the different countries within the continent. Okay, that's the major focus, is to show the boundaries of the different countries. A physical map shows the physical features of an area, such as oceans, seas, islands, mountains, lakes, rivers, and deserts. So the physical environment is the focus of a physical map. And so if you look at the physical map of Africa, you see that they have different mountain ranges and deserts based on the color. All right, and it has labeled. You see the detail in the ocean based on how deep it is. The darker the color, you see that there is a desert in this area. So it's focusing on the physical features of Africa. The next one is a climate map. And a climate map shows the average monthly or yearly weather conditions, could include temperatures, rainfall, and or snow amounts. Okay, so the map that I have is the different climates of Africa: tropical wet, dry, desert, semi-arid. Mediterranean, and so on. Okay, so a climate map could show temperature, rainfall, snowfall, etc. Next, population density map. A population density map shows how many people live in an area relative to the space occupied by them. So it looks at the space and how many people live within that space in that area. For example, they look at usually per square mile. So a square mile of land, how many people live in there? Is it 50 people per square mile, 100, and so on? So if you look at the map of Africa, this is population density in 1960. You can see the darker the color, the more people that live in the area. And we'll talk about this when we talk about ancient Egypt, but the red along the Nile, the more people live around there. Okay. And the lakes and also the oceans as well. Okay, so population density. Next, one that we did not talk about on Thursday that I'm just going to briefly mention, topographic map. And a topographic map is like a physical map. It shows elevation of an area. And elevation is how high a place is above sea level. So if you look at the topographic map of Africa, the darker brown is the highest point above sea level, and the deepest, darkest blue is the lowest point above sea level. That's the deepness of the ocean. Okay, so, and as you go from dark blue to dark brown, you have the different colors in between. So the higher you go up, the higher the elevation. Next, a product map. A product map shows the natural resources and or the different products that are made in an area. So again, a product map of Africa shows the different minerals and other natural resources found within Africa and its countries. Historical maps. Maps from the past. All right, so these are maps that represent a time of the past. And these historical maps are used to create their own maps showing how a place looked like in the past. So cartographers will use maps from the past. Okay, let's say a map of Africa from 1911. Cartographers would use that map to create their own map to show people what Africa was like back then. Okay, so historical maps are maps from the past, oftentimes used to make maps to show people what it was like back then. So historical map. And the last type of map is a special kind of map called a globe. And the globe is a round, three-dimensional map that represents the entire Earth. Okay, so there's some advantages to a globe. It is a better model of Earth, since Earth is not flat, like your typical map is flat. So it's a better model of it, because Earth is round, and there's not as much distortion of Earth and its features. A globe can represent long distances more accurately because it is such a better model. So you can measure long distances more accurately on a globe. Disadvantages of a globe: not as much detail can be shown because it's covering such a large area of land. Okay, it's covering all of Earth. So lack of detail and also difficult to carry. I don't see anybody carrying around a big globe in their pocket like you can a map. So there's other types of geographic tools that we discussed in class. Cartographers have other geographic tools they use to gather and analyze information in order to make maps. So these three geographic tools that we're talking about, historical maps also can be included in this section. These tools are used to help make maps. Okay, so there are these tools in the cartographer's tool belt to make the most accurate maps possible. So the first one is an aerial photograph, and this is a photo of land taken from a helicopter, airplane, or satellite. So it's a high photo. Okay, it's from the sky. The greater heights make it easier to see main features of a place. So if you look at the photo that I have on the screen, you can see where the trees are located, where the houses are located, where the lake is located, or the pond. It probably most likely is. So you can see it front. You can get more sense of the detail of the community because it's such at a higher height, greater height. The next one is a digital satellite image. And these are images taken by satellites in outer space. Photos are put together by computers to make a digital image. So the images taken from the satellite are put together for a digital image. And these images are used in things like Google Maps. Okay, these kind of satellite images. And the last one is a Geographic Information System, or GIS. This is a specialized map. Computers capture, store, and display info at each location. By clicking on the location, the viewer is able to find information about it. So, and I'll show you an example, but there's multiple layers of information on the same map. And this is used by fire and emergency workers to quickly find needed information about pipelines, power lines, and sewers. So if the fire department, there's a fire, and the fire department wants to see what kind of power lines are in the area, and also where the pipelines are, the gas pipelines, so they can see kind of where some danger might be. They can use the GIS to find this information. So here's an example of a GIS, like a basic GIS. It starts with a base map. And within that base map, within that one map, you can have different layers. All right. So in imagery, what does it look like in real life? Land cover, demographics, who lives where, what type of people live where. The wetlands, so where are the wetlands located in this specific area? What's the elevation like within the area? What is the political zoning? Okay. And what are the pieces of land, the ownership of land. So you can find all this information in one map because it's layered. All right, that is a GIS. All right, so that's a quick overview, a review of the different types of maps we discussed on Thursday. I hope this video helped. If you have any questions about a particular map, please do not hesitate to ask questions.